Hey folks, this is Rebel Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is the tornado himself, Tony Petticoat. And I keep Tom Badger with his crystal ball and looking at the stars to see what's going to be happening.
All right. Well, I thought it was kind of funny. Last week I was watching one of the football games and they had a crystal ball on there and they had the whole graphic thing. You know how they do the cartoons and stuff. And anyway, I'm pretty sure it was for the Bears-Saints game. And there was an interesting little incident during that game that's worth talking about on this show because it was like fight related. So actually,
yeah, I saw that.
Tony and I chatted a little bit about how Andy Dalton, the quarterback for the Cowboys, that got knocked out there and concussed pretty bad with a bad hit. Nobody retaliated. Nobody got in anybody's face, but we have a situation here where a wide receiver and I think it was a linebacker or something from the Saints.
Defensive back, maybe? I'm not sure.
I don't know what position he plays, but C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Chauncey is what the C stands for. I don't know. That doesn't sound like a tough guy, but anyway. Chauncey apparently spit on Javon Wims, or is that's what allegedly happened, according to Javon. Okay. So this happens on what looks like an uneventful play. Like they're kind of like in each other's face, and then they move off screen. And then, like, it happened to be like he didn't get to be back in the game against the same dude for like 10 minutes. So 10 minutes later, he's still holding a grudge over the thing because it wasn't just supposedly the spit, but he ripped his mouthpiece off. So he gets all pissed off about it, and he's stewing on the sideline. So as soon as he gets back in there, they get to trash talking each other after the play stops, and he just whaps him. Just a right hook slap to the helmet, and then he whaps him again.
The best part about it is, like, he walks up to him and he, like, taps him on the shoulder. Like, excuse me. The guy turns around and he just slugs him.
Yeah.
The guy looks at him, he's slugging him. And then, you know what? You got to give the guy credit that got hit, because he just looked at him and was like, you want to throw this flag now?
Yeah.
We'll take the free 15. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, and then his teammate jumps all over the situation, and next thing you know, it's craziness. But if you watch the replay, what happened, they slowed it down, and it wasn't even on the live replay. It was on like a later replay they showed. So he had his mouthpiece stolen. He took Chauncey's mouthpiece out before the slap. He ripped his mouthpiece off his helmet and then slapped him. So it was totally a crazy situation because you're basically having retaliation over a mouthpiece issue, but you won't. In another situation, you won't go after somebody for almost friggin' putting your quarterback in the hospital.
Yeah,
like guys are fighting over mouthpieces.
I mean, a lot of it comes down to like team culture. A lot of it comes down, just team chemistry. And, it's like, I'll tell you, back, with my Eagles, you go back in the late 80s when Buddy Ryan was coach. Buddy Ryan is revered in this town. And when you look at it, he was a great defensive coach, but a below average head coach. But his guys were like a family out there, like that, especially his defense. Like, these guys were like, in fact, one of the players, in a book I have, he was like almost like Marine Colonel, and it was like, Buddy say, we do, and he goes, that was just our mantra, Buddy say, we do, and if ever like somebody had taken a cheap shot on like one of our players, it was like somebody went out and he would like send like the goon squad after him the next play, take him out. Take them out.
Oh, before I forget, speaking of Goon Squad, we got to talk about Adrian Broner and his latest incident.
Oh, boy.
I don't know if you saw it on my Facebook, Tony, but Adrian Broner.
I saw you had something. I read a headline on it, but I really didn't look at it.
Adrian Broner is in jail until he figures out the paperwork, basically, on how to get some payments.
Oh, he said something about billions and he can't even afford his own bail or something?
No, he has an $800,000 judgment against him from a civil matter. And I'm drawing a blank on the particulars. I read it, but it's in the video on my Facebook. Anyway, bottom line is he gets to court, and the judge calls him out right in public about, why are you flashing all this cash around on Instagram if you're claiming out there that you only have $13 to your name? And so he goes off on this like little crazy rant, and he's like, oh, well, I got rich friends, Steven Espinoza, Al Heyman, and I got other people I helped out, and, they know I'm down, so they're going to help me out because they're doing good and I'm not doing good. And he's like, I got to pay all my bills. But he's not giving any money, any payments to this woman that won the judgment. So it's a woman judge, and they're just giving him the business, and he's like trying to ask advice, and he's like, but I don't know how to do it. And she's like, well, that's what you need to talk to your lawyer about. And he's like, but how am I supposed to do it when I'm in jail? And then the best line of all he saves for last, he's like, but Your Honor, I just want to let you know, after my next fight, I'll just pay it out of that. Don't work like that, buddy. Sorry, but unreal. And it was actually kind of funny because Regis Prograis used the opportunity to criticize him for basically screwing up an opportunity for Regis to go make money off of Broner, because he thinks their styles make one of the best fights possible right now. I don't know if he's just being,
and he very well could be right.
Being bold there, but he's basically like saying, get your shit together because we need to fight.
Yeah.
And he just beat Juan Heraldez. I don't have his record right in front of me, but it was not the most entertaining and crazy, exciting win of the weekend. It was a knockout of the year candidate in boxing that happened. Gervonta Davis. You feel bad for Leo Santa Cruz after a punch like that, boy.
I mean, like Leo Santa Cruz was an underdog going into this fight. Santa Cruz is a hell of a fighter, and for a while he was, one of the, top guys pound for pound. The situation is Leo Santa Cruz is maybe on the back nine now. He's moving up in weight. So now, it's especially when you're in those lighter weight classes, you move up a weight class, that can be a big difference. I mean, 5 pounds, 3 pounds in those weight classes can be a big difference. And Gervonta Davis is a big fighter for his weight class. 130, 135 pounds. He looks more like a welterweight, maybe a junior middleweight. Strong guy, very physical. Sometimes has trouble making weight and uses that size to his advantage. I didn't get to watch the whole fight because I was out, but I did see the highlights and I did see the knockout. And you could see, like, Santa Cruz, what happened there was Davis got him up against the ropes in the corner, and now you have the wounded animal trapped. And basically, it's like, you got to fight or you're going to get steamrolled. So he threw a 1-2, and it landed. Then he threw another 1-2. Then he threw another 1-2, and he got very predictable. And that third one, Santa Cruz, Davis slipped, and that's when he threw that left uppercut. It was a beautiful punch. It was almost like that one on from the bubble a few months ago when the fighter got knocked out in the last round. Left uppercut, boom, knocked him out. Almost like Povetkin and Dillian White. Perfect slide to the outside, left uppercut, out cold. And when Santa Cruz hit the ground, I mean, he was out.
Yeah. Wild stuff. Yeah. It wasn't even a case of, needing to count. I mean, it was...
No, not at all.
I didn't even really see the full clip of it, but I saw like 20 seconds. And you could see like the ref running right over and making sure the friggin' alert the medical staff, like, we got to get to this dude quick.
Yeah.
He could see is that devastating. And it was just, I think the magic of it, the reason why it's one of the knockout of the year candidates is that it was just so quick and ranging. I mean, he was standing straight up. Next thing you know, he's just dipping down. And it came from left field. And it just hit beautifully. Could not have landed better. And it was right in the corner. And Leo Santa Cruz just evaporated, basically. Just, bam! All the life came out of him. And he was in a heap. Within a millisecond, it was like, it was like a blink of an eye. He was standing up and he was on the ground. And I think that's what made it just so dynamic. It's just the quickness of it. Kind of reminded me of, like, back years ago, there was a big hit in the NHL. I think there was a guy named Leo McSorley for the Bruins. He got suspended for a few games. And they were just going so fast towards each other. And it was just a gentle, like lift of the elbow. And clotheslined this guy. Put him in the hospital. I mean, he was on a neck brace for a while. So it was like one of those things where they actually considered assault charges. But yeah, sometimes it's just that quickness. Quickness and accuracy. Just at the right spot, right time. I mean, it just shuts your lights right out. And he hit the switch all right. And he's looking better and better every fight. Very slick fighter. Very, very dynamic. Very quick. And obviously very powerful. Took out a world-class guy there. And hope Leo Santa Cruz is all right after that.
Did you guys happen to see that fight Friday night with the cut in the mouth?
I did not.
Ooh, man, you got to look that one up.
Oh, yes. Monguia. I did read about that, right?
Yeah, I seen the highlight. Yeah,
he knocked his lip off, right? Piece of his lip off because he pierced his lip. The guy pierced his lip.
First of all, Medina was the A-side fighter in that fight. Highly touted prospect. And as the junior middleweight, he was, just gigantic. I mean, he looked like a super middleweight in there, and he was just overpowering guys. So now he finally stepped up. He's fighting middleweight now, full-fledged middleweight. And when this fight started, the guy that he was fighting was a B-side fighter, but he was something like, and I'm positive I don't have his name in front of me. He was like 25-2 or something like that coming in, and he had like 16, 17 knockouts, so he wasn't a devastating puncher, but you could see, especially from the first round, that he had some thump in his pump, and like he came out there and he landed a couple like right southpaw stands. He was mixing up back and forth. Landed a couple hooks. I was like, damn, like he stunned McGeaney. I'm like, this is gonna be a good fight, They were going back and forth, and it was like his chopping right hooks versus McGeaney's uppercuts, and they were going back and forth, and this guy would stun him, and back, just a good action, quality fight. It was a good, like one of those good Friday night, like ESPN fights that you would just, sometimes get where you get like a contender against a guy really wanting to play spoiler and really coming in to put that work in. Yeah. And then finally it was around the eighth round, McGeaney lands an uppercut, and you just see blood fly, boom. And they looked at it, it was a vertical cut. So it went up, his lip split in half by like an inch. It went up almost to his nose. I mean, it's nasty looking. They let him finish the round, which I'm in a way surprised they did, and then they just immediately stopped it because there was no way you could stem that blood. No way in hell you're going to be able to stem that. And in a way, what it reminded me of, if you go back and you look at Arturo Gotti's last fight against Alfonso Gomez, and Gotti was, getting outclassed in that. You could tell his career was pretty much over. But the punch that Gomez put him down with was a right hand. It was almost like a delayed, like jab, then a right hand. And Gotti went down, and he was on his hands and knees, and blood pouring out of his mouth. He had the vertical split lip, and like the referee was counting, and the commissioner ran in, was like, just stop the count. This fight's over. That punch caused the same effect. And that's one where there's like, even, there's nothing the Cutman could have done. Nothing.
Yeah.
Now, 1955 in Rocky Marciano, the fight would have continued.
Yeah, different story there. Anyway.
Different story.
We also had Derek Chisora losing to Alexander Usyk last weekend, Saturday. Tommy McCarthy winning against Bilal Lagoon. Mario Barrios beating Ryan Carl. And then Yua Brodnicka lost to Michaela Meyer in a big female fight. Ladarius Miller losing to Michael Rivera. As I mentioned, Regis Prograis, he had the win over Juan Heraldez last Saturday. And George Kambosos Jr. might have won the upset of the week there over Lee Selby over there in the UK. Gervonta Davis, we talked about that. Diego Magdaleno also losing to Isaac Cruz Gonzalez. And Naya Inoue over Jason Maloney. And there's not too much big fights this weekend, actually. All the names that are on box check for Saturday the 7th are people I've never heard of.
There is a live fight card in Philly this weekend that's going to have limited fans. And the reason I know about it is, the guy that putting the show together, RDR Promotions, Rodney Rice. Rodney's a trainer out of, my old gym. That's how I know him, pretty well. But that's really, all I know of for this weekend. And someone asked me today, one of my coworkers, that said, hey, there's a local fight card in Philly this weekend. It's actually going to have limited fans. So you figure the 2,300 arena in South Philly seats about 1,200 standing room only, maybe 1,500. And I think they're going to allow 300. Hey, it's a start, right?
Right.
I don't want to be anywhere near the city of Philadelphia right now at all, but, so even without a virus, I wasn't going.
Yeah. Well, let's just run down the list here, see what we got. Anything pops out worth mentioning. Is that on Saturday in Philly?
Yes, November 7th, 2,300 arena.
The big one, I guess, is in Russia. That's the one on the front page of BoxRec. RCC Boxing Academy in Ekaterinburg, Russia. The main event is a lightweight fight. Roman Andreev, he is 23-0, fighting Pavel Malikov, who's 16-2-1. And had 2 losses and a draw in his last 6, and then 3 wins. So, yeah, probably going to lose that one. Magomed Kurbanov at super welterweight. He's 20-0, fighting Dmitry Mikhailenko, who is 23-6, and that's a little bit more evenly matched. Even though 5 of his last 6 is. But went to the loss column for Mikhailenko. And then the White Wolf back in action at heavyweight. Sergey Liakovich, 27-8. Fighting Evgeny Romanov, who's undefeated, 14-0 for a title. The World Boxing Organization with an S. Global heavyweight title. Global rather than world. Cruiserweights as well. John McCallum, 12-1 against Evgeny Tishenko, who's 7-0 for the vacant WBO European Cruiserweight title. Interesting. And in Los Angeles, there's another heavyweight fight, 15-0 against 15-3 for the World Boxing Organization NABO heavyweight title on Saturday. Co-main event is another heavyweight. All the fights are heavyweights. Is this a tournament? I think one of these guys is a former guest of ours, I believe. Frank Sanchez against Brian Howard here. Frank is 15-0 at heavyweight. Brian is 15-3. Then we got Luis Ortiz, 31-2, fighting Alexander Flores, who is 18-2-1. Michael Polite Coffee, 10-0, fighting Joey Abel, who I believe we had on the show years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, Joey Abel, wow.
35-10.
Didn't know he was even still throwing fists out there.
Yeah, 35-10 is his record. Has lost 2 of his last 6, but that's not a guy with a lot of experience, so who knows. We also have Carlos Negron on this card, who is 21-3, fighting Rafael Rios, who is 11-2. And oh, geez, this has got to be our mismatch of the week in Florida. I think this is a heavy favorite here. Cornelius Bundridge. You recognize that name? He's 30.
Oh my God.
36-6. Yeah, from Contender fame. He is fighting Antoine Ellerson, who has a whopping 4 wins to go with 25 losses and 3 draws. There is nobody on the card that has more than 7 wins other than Cornelius.
Wow.
Entire card. It's like 7 fights. One guy's 3-8. That's rough. And then we got another one down in Hollywood, Florida. I don't know why they didn't put this on the front page of BoxRec. This is a no-brainer. Devin Haney against Uriah Gamboa.
Oh, yeah. We got
24
that one this weekend on the zone. That's not a bad one.
Devin Haney, lightweight. Uriah Gamboa has seen better days. He had that one fight. I think he just quit, right? He just said, screw this. WBC World Lightweight title on the line here.
Yeah, that was a fight when he was he fighting Gervonta Davis and he like hurt his Achilles or something. He was like hobbling around for the last few rounds.
Yeah, then he was just like, I can't do it.
And Davis didn't take him out. We're like, oh, maybe Davis is hyped up as he is, but then he goes out and destroys Santa Cruz.
Mm-hmm. Then we have another heavyweight fight this weekend. Jeez, that's a heavyweight weekend. Zalel Zhang, 21-0 at heavyweight, fighting Devin Vargas, who's 22-6. And another heavyweight fight. Philip Hergovic, 11-0, fighting Rydell Booker, who's 26-3. I believe that name sounds familiar. Did he do some bare knuckle boxing or something recently? He might have.
I heard the name. I'm not sure where I know it from, though.
Sounds familiar. Anyway, that's about it for the good stuff. That card. Fights in Davenport, Iowa. Here's the Philly card. Main event there is Mark Dawson, who's 6-0 at welterweight with 1 draw. And I guess that was in his pro debut because all 6 are showing green of the last 6 fights column. He's got quite the mismatch. Vincent Floyd, 4-9-1. Has only won 1 of his last 6. Yeah, tough road to hoe there for Vincent. Nothing really crazy on the rest of that card.
Yeah, the one kid on the card, see if he's still on there. I think he is. Dylan Price.
Dylan Price, 10-0, fighting Jose Rodriguez, 4-3. Super flyweights.
The next time, when everything goes back to normal, and we get a big fight card going in Philly or something, I want both you guys to come through, and I'm going to introduce you to Dylan's father, Dave. And first of all, his father, Dave Price, who does some managing, does some promoting now, does some training. Dave, probably about 15 or so years ago, invented something, and he made some money off called the Cuff Glove. And that was where it was like a wrap to go around where the tape normally would, but instead of getting loose when it would get wet, it would actually almost like seal.
Yeah.
So the wetter it got, the more secure it got.
I remember that. I remember that apparatus.
Yeah. Well, you can also, if you ever get to meet this guy, Dave, ask him about our sparring sessions. I love Dave. He's a great guy. He introduced me to a lot of people, but he's the one that we were sparring with. First time I ever met the guy. We're sparring, and one of those nights, no matter what you did, you were off.
Yeah.
And they always talk about being in quicksand. Like they talk to Keanu Reeves at the movie Replacements. He goes, like quicksand, he goes, something goes wrong. And the harder you fight, the deeper you sink. And he goes, until you can't breathe anymore. So I'm in there with this guy, and everything I was doing just wasn't working. If I was trying to, catch and counter the jab, he was throwing a right hand over the top and hitting me. If I was trying to, set up a hold for the left hook, he was throwing a right hand on the inside. No matter what he did, I could not neutralize him. If it was on the scorecards and we were in the third round, say we were 2 minutes into the third round, he won 8 of 8 minutes. And we're in that third round, and I'm frustrated, but he's starting to slow down just a little bit. And, I pump a jab to the head, and I just did the dip to the left over my left leg, which was my go-to. And that right elbow went up, and the left hook went in. Boom. And he actually bent over, and his tongue came out. And he went, ugh. I said, oh, Christ, this guy's going to throw up. And I put my hand on his shoulder, because we're in a sparring session. I'm not going out for the knockout now. Put my hand on his shoulder, and I pushed him. And my dad later goes, then the sparring session was over. He was done. Couldn't move. So my dad goes, what happened? He goes, because my dad was like, I was watching from a little bit away. He goes, you hit him with the shot, and he goes, it looked like you were trying to, apologize. He goes, you didn't hit him with a low blow. I said, no, Dad. I said, I thought he was going to throw up on me. I was pushing him, so if he threw up, it wasn't going to be all over me. But we talk about, every time we're ever in a fight card, and Dave would God, this is my boy Tony. Hardest I've ever been hit in the body in my life. And that's what I'll always say.
Nice.
So I got that going for me.
Sweet. Well, if you're looking for a way to train without giving or getting COVID, you can invest about $500 now in this new product. It's supposed to rival Peloton. It's called Fight Camp. One word, Fight Camp. I just read about this, just found out about it. Okay, so it's got the triplicate. You've got an app, you've got the equipment, and you've got a subscription service to the videos. So there's a couple packages. It starts at $1,200 for the hardware and all that, but you can also get the affordable $400 plus package. It just has punch trackers and hand wraps. And then you can tap into the videos. They call them quick wraps and punch trackers. $439. You get full interactive experience, including tracking. So, in case you want to practice for being microchipped, you can track your workouts through this app. And it doesn't tell you who, but it says professional boxing trainers go through stuff with you on the videos. So this person that I read about basically reviewed it, and it says basically for the money, Peloton, it's a pricey piece of hardware, and you're only doing one thing on it. Fight Camp, this person says, is far more engaging. The very nature of the product means you're always learning and improving, which is a huge part of the fun. It's not just about pedaling faster and adjusting resistance. Needless to say, you can't keep learning and improving without the Fight Camp app and training videos. All of the workouts I've tried so far have been awesome, and I can't wait until I improve enough to start tackling the more advanced sessions. Now, it also has some kickboxing stuff, too, so doesn't leave out those martial arts folks. I haven't looked at the video yet, but they're showing a very oversized, pillar type standalone heavy bag rather than one that hangs from the ceiling. It's got like a rubber, like a tire going around the base, and then just a really big, oversized pillar. I don't know if it's filled with air or what. But, I don't know, it's some weird stuff going around in the fitness category. I don't know if you guys have seen this friggin' Aero Trainer thing. Looks like a damn pool float they're selling on TV now.
I haven't, but, it's amazing a lot of the stuff that they do now. It really is.
Yeah, but this is technology-based. It's interesting. We talked, I think, like 2 years ago about this technology of punch tracking, and I think it was like a set of gloves that somebody had invented that could do this to track your punches, but it didn't connect to an app or anything or any kind of training program. So that, I guess, is a little bit of a innovation in that respect. So we'll keep an eye on that space anyway. We got to talk one more boxing story, and then we got to talk a lot of MMA. We got a UFC fight that just happened. UFC fight coming up. Bellator fights on right now. All kinds of stuff. All right. Alexander Povetkin, latest big COVID positive fighter. His fight with Dillian White, his rematch. Speaking of sneaky uppercuts, his rematch where he knocked Dillian out with a very slick uppercut. That's out cold. Put him right on his back. It's going to be postponed, obviously. He was hospitalized. It was so bad. So, pulling for him. Hope he recovers all right. So, let's see what happens. Oh, another boxing story I cannot forget to mention. Deontay Wilder has gone off the crazy train. Gone right off the tracks in the crazy train. He's claiming now.
What was it, the tainted water now?
His water was spiked, okay, by his trainer who threw in the towel. That's what he's claiming. And now, I don't know if this was real or not, but somebody posted something where Mark Brilliant was like, yep, I did taint his water. I pissed in it after he fired me.
I saw that. I don't know if it was real or not either, but I was cracking up, dude.
That the worst allegation of all, okay, is the egg weight. Deontay Wilder claims that Tyson Fury not only moved his hands down in the glove, which has already been out there as a stupid theory, but that he also used an egg weight of some kind just under the wrist area of the glove or in his palm area. And that's what made his skull cave in and his ear bleed from the inside. I was like, are you kidding me? This guy is out to lunch.
Yeah.
Even his friends and colleagues in the business who have worked with him are saying this guy is nuts. Nuts for these allegations.
It's ridiculous. It really is, And Rich, we've all, been in this game. We've all been around for, watching it, fans of it, participants in it for a long time. Gone are the days of the, Jack Dempsey was their plaster Paris in the glove. Gone are the days of Luis Resto and Panama Lewis pulling the padding out before he fought Billy Collins. Just because right now everything is so monitored. And to give you a perfect example, if you go back to the recently departed brother Nazim Richardson, he was the one that caught Felix Trinidad, the way they were wrapping his hands illegally, and what's this, Antonio Margarito, when he was fighting Shane Mosley. Because you figure in big fights like that, they have representatives in the locker room. So if Rich, you and I are going to fight. We're fighting for the championship of the world now. And you got people, I got people. they have an official in there, and they have a representative from your camp in there. They watch my hands get wrapped. They inspect the gloves that I'm going to wear before they are put on my hands. You know, if if Tyson Fury was able to do everything that Wilder's claiming to do, then I'm going to change his name legally from Tyson Fury to Harry fucking Houdini. There you go.
Nice. Well, yeah. It's
bullshit, you know? Hey, it sucks when you lose a fight. And, you know, and your ego might get hurt, and it sucks. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, you lost the fight.
Yeah.
You know?
First, it was the suit.
You either do one or two things.
Which, out of all the excuses, I mean, spiked water we've actually seen before, I'm sure. It's definitely happened at one point or another in boxing. It's feasible. But the actual first explanation that he had was that his fucking walk-in suit was too heavy. He wore this big suit of armor with all these lights, wanted to make a spectacle of himself walking out to the ring in an outfit that was supposed to intimidate his opponent, I guess. And it ended up supposedly sapping all his strength. But nope, now he claims that wouldn't have happened if his water hadn't been spiked and he hadn't been hit with an egg weight. Ridiculous. Yeah. Ridiculous. But anyway, we'll see what happens. He still wants his rematch and all that, but you know, he's got some issues to deal with. His hands keep breaking on him. He's had some surgeries. I don't know, that knockout power and that legend of his is kind of being minimized more with every day that we don't see him in the ring. And who knows how he's going to come back from the surgery or whatever he had to do that got the fight canceled. The rematch was supposed to be all set, but you know, shit happens. Anyway, MMA, we got to talk about Anderson Silva. A little bit of controversy in that fight, not so much in the actual fight itself, but in Dana White's situation. Okay, because apparently Anderson Silva came out in an interview before the fight and said something about the UFC being more like a family when the Fertittas were there. I think he actually specifically mentioned Lorenzo. And it pissed Dana White off. Bad. He apparently was backstage screaming up and down, said some stuff in the media that he never should have let Anderson Silva fight. And, you know, I had faith enough in him to bet on him on the FanDuel card. Boy, what a bad move that was. But I really wasn't thinking much about MMA the first round. You know what I was thinking about is that old Garth Brooks song, The Dance. I would have had to miss the pain, but I'd have had to miss the dance. Something like that. So, that's what it was. It was a dance. And, you know, it wasn't as bad as Pat Barry that time when he fought his idol, Mirko Krokop, when he started hugging him in the middle of the cage. But, yeah, there was a lot of dancing, posing. I think he threw like 8 punches the whole first round, Anderson. And you could tell, you know, Uriah's looking at his hero. He wants to win the fight, but he doesn't want to embarrass the guy. The knockout even was just like Herb Dean having mercy on Anderson. He wasn't really hurt that bad. He was protesting, but, you know, he knew it was done. You know, there's nothing really he could do better. So, Uriah got the win, but also, not only did Dana criticize Anderson, but he criticized Uriah and said something like, you know, he's the most gun-shy fighter in UFC history. So get this, it comes out in an interview. Uriah Hall, first of all, says, I don't give a shit what Dana White thinks about how I did. You know, I know he's the boss and everything, but what he says doesn't bother me. That's basically what he was saying. and a respectful explanation. But he also came out and said that he has a legitimate fear of hurting people. And if you remember his history, he had a very vicious knockout. Dana White called it one of the most scary knockouts he had ever seen at that point in his career. On the Ultimate Fighter, is a kid that's no longer with the UFC, but he hit him with a head kick, spinning head kick, and that kid was kind of like Leo Santa Cruz, in a heap, mighty quick.
Yep.
So it's like PTSD with him. He doesn't want to hurt anybody, and it's a legitimate thing. I mean, I've dealt with that myself before, because I used to have like a snap. Somebody would say something about my mother who died, and I was after him. It was a switch that got flipped. I was no longer in control of my brain. I was just going to beat somebody. So I kind of know the feeling, and then when you see the aftermath, it sets in, and you're like, Jesus Christ, I could really hurt somebody if I abuse this privilege. So it's kind of a crazy situation to be in when you're a fighter, but maybe that's why Uriah doesn't fight a whole hell of a lot lately. But he moves to 17-9. Anderson Silva goes out at 34-12, and it was his 4th round TKO. But boy, what a way to stay undefeated for the co-main event fighter Bryce Mitchell over Andre Fili. That was another mistake I made. I went for the cheaper Andre Fili to fill out my card, and that didn't go well for me. I didn't come anywhere near the winners. I think I got one fight right. Jeez, I got all the losers. I had Bobby Green, who lost a unanimous decision over Thiago Moises. Maurice Green, I tried to pick over Greg Hardy. I thought Greg Hardy was going to not have enough gas tank, but it turned out Maurice Green didn't have enough gas tank either. And just couldn't string his strikes together. He had the reach, but that was an ugly fight. But the Fili fight was a very technical one. Bryce kind of reminds me of Colton Smith, I think his name was. Guy from the Ultimate Fighter a few years ago who just...
Yeah, I remember him.
During his run where he won the show, he was just so good at just clinging right to you, not letting you scramble away, just holding on to you and using it to his advantage. And he usually didn't submit a lot of people, but he would punch you from that position, he would roll you over, but he was just always able to take you down at the right moment and minimize your striking, and that's what he did to Andre Fili. Fili had one round. I think it was the second round. He almost edged out, but the rest of it was all Bryce Mitchell. And if you saw the post-fight remarks, which I also posted on Facebook, that was the best because he went off on his governor talking about COVID and how it's so unfortunate these little kids in the playgrounds are getting yelled at for removing their masks to get some fresh air outside. And recess and stuff, So he went off and said, basically we should have a vote. If our governor is just going to do that, we need to have a vote before it happens. Which is kind of an interesting take on it. But he got all political. Greg Hardy did edge out the win. TKO punches over Maurice Green. 1 minute and 12 seconds into the second. Kevin Holland over Charlie Ontiveros by a submission to a slam. Must have missed that one. 2 minutes and 39 seconds into the first. Thiago Moses, as I said, got the unanimous decision win over Bobby Green. Chris Grutzemacher got wiped out pretty quickly. 1 minute and 46 seconds into the fight by Alexander Hernandez. Adrian Yanez over Victor Rodriguez by a head kick. 2 minutes, 46 seconds into that one. Knockout. Sean Strickland over Jack Marshman by unanimous decision. Jason Witt over Cole Williams by arm triangle choke submission. 2 minutes and 9 seconds into round two. Dustin Jacoby over Justin Leday. I think that was my only win right there, Dustin. The only guy I picked right. And he got a first round knockout, which would have got me real good points, but would have had to go with all the other wins. Anyway, it was leg kicks and punches. led to that win. 2 minutes and 38 seconds into the first. And first fight of the night, Miles Johns beat Kevin Natividad by knockout punch. That was 2 minutes and 51 seconds into round 3. And we got Bellator 251. Pretty much just ended. Melvin Manhoef against Corey Anderson from the UFC. Corey Truck Anderson. Speaking of Ultimate Fighter, he was with the UFC. He was doing pretty well with the UFC, and just didn't like the contract negotiations. Left for greener pasture there. He didn't feel like they were giving him his net worth. So ends up main eventing against Melvin here. Got the win. TKO from elbows. The second round. 2 minutes and 34 seconds. I didn't get to watch this. I was getting ready for the show. But Corey improves to 15-5. Melvin falls to 32-16-1. A lot of fights. Co-main event, Tyrell Fortune. Living up to his name. Got the win over Saeed Salma by unanimous decision. And we didn't have a Jesus Fight of the Week in boxing, but we got one here in MMA. We got a Day Jesus. Vinicius Day Jesus fighting Austin Vanderford. That was a unanimous decision loss for Day Jesus. Didn't pull off the miracle. Derek Anderson over Achilles Mota by soccer kick KO. What's going on there? Is Bellator allowing soccer kicks now? I don't know if that's accurate. 4 minutes and 27 seconds into the second round. Has Connecticut made soccer kicks legal in MMA? I don't know. I saw that the other day too. I said, what is that? Soccer kick. Georgie Karkanian over Bryce Logan by split decision. Julius Anglicus over Alex Polizzi, also by unanimous decision. A lot of those on this card. Janae Harding over Jesse Meal, unanimous decision. Ali Zebian over Bianchi Zimmerman, unanimous decision win. Jalen Bales over Joseph Supino, unanimous decision. And first fight of the night, Sumika Inaba over Jessica Ruiz by TKO with 1 second left in the first round. That's rough. Elbows. Okay, so the big one this weekend is UFC on ESPN 17, they're calling it. Thiago Santos versus Glover Teixeira. Thiago's 21-7. Glover is 31-7. So 10 more wins and fights for Glover. Okay, that ain't no contest or anything. That's a pretty interesting fight. I know Glover would probably be the bigger overall guy, but he's not like muscled up like Thiago. I think Thiago has a little bit more world-class type experience too. So if I had to gun to my head make a pick on this one, I gotta go with Thiago. Although I could see either guy winning this one. What do you think, Tom? Give me the psychic.
I would agree.
Take. All right, Thiago there. Now this next one's a little interesting because we got Andrei Arlovsky, one of my favorites with his style when he's on, but when he's off, he looks like hell. So you never know which guy's going to show up. He's had a lot of ups and downs. At one time, he was really one of the most feared fighters in the UFC. He's 29-19 right now. Last fight was May 13th. He had a unanimous decision win over Philip Lins. For that, Rosenstruck knocked him out in 29 seconds. And he had a win over Ben Rothwell. Up and down, up and down. Augusto Sakai beat him before that. And it was Walt Harris, had a no contest. A couple losses before that. Tai Tuivasa, Shamil Abdurakhimov. A lot of decisions, but he did get KO'd there by Rosenstruck. This guy, he's fighting Tanner Boser. 19-6-1. I don't know much about him. I don't even know if I've seen him fight. I have to look at his record first here. Tanner Boser. Doesn't look familiar. Okay, so he's had a few fights. He actually beat Philip Leans too. By knockout, though. Rafael Pessoa was his latest victim. That was TKO. He has one loss to Cyril Gagne in the UFC. Daniel Spitz was a win before that. That was his UFC debut back in 2019, October. It was UFC on ESPN 6. Reyes versus Weidman on that card. So, let's click on Cyril Gagne. Let's see if we can do some common opponent math. He is 6-0, Cyril Gagne, so that's no slouch to lose to him. And 3 of those 6 have been UFC fights. It's got to be one of the quickest rises to the UFC I've ever seen there. He was in 3 TKO events. And he went right to the UFC. Because 2 of those TKO events were TKO results. All inside the second round. Yeah. So that's the co-main event. I guess I gotta go with the fresh hand there, Tanner Boser. I think he's gonna get the best of Arlovsky. I hate to say it, I like Arlovsky, but I don't know. Up and down would be the pattern. He needs a down. He's going to continue it. He's going to pull something big out. He's going to turn it around. It's possible. But which Arlovsky is going to show up? We don't know. Right. What do you think on that one, Tom?
Yeah, I think the old warhorse is, God, he's been around forever. And I think his chin's gone. So I got to go against him. But I feel like you. I've always been a fan. But
yeah, and I remember talking when I first saw him in one of his really dynamic performances. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. Everybody likes the spinning back fist. You know, you just find the right moment. And then, John Jones, of course, with the spinning back elbow. And a couple of people have been able to duplicate it and land it in a few situations, but he used to do it religiously. But Arlovsky, at one point, started just doing straight back fists and landing them. And it was at the time when I think I was trying to still do the MMA fight and, train everything, not just when I hit the bag still, I'd still do the kicks and elbows and all that. So I was trying it. Man, that could be vicious if you use it right. And nobody else was doing it at the time but him. You still don't see it a lot, but it's one of those things that, why wouldn't you? But let's see. He never did it again. Never really saw it from him again either, which is very odd. You think if it was working for you, you'd stick with it. Maybe he broke his wrist or something. I don't know. So anyway, we also have Ian Heinisch, 14-3, fighting Brendan Allen, 15-3. Claudia Gadella coming in at 18-4, fighting Xiaonan Yan, who's 12-1. Tough opponent there. Giga Chikadze, 11-2, fighting James Krause Simmons, who's 7-2. Trevin Giles, 12-2, fighting Bevan Lewis, who's 7-2. Rayoni Barcelos, 15-1, fighting Khalid Taha, who is 13-2. Max Griffin coming in at 15-8, fighting Ramiz Brahimaj, who is 8-2. Darren, they call him the Damage Elkins, 24-9, fighting Luis Eduardo Garogari, who is 13-1. Now, Darren, he's one of those type of fighters that you can never count out, but at the same time, he will come at you and leave his hands down to the point where a lot of fights he has covered in blood, and it's his own. And I don't know how many fights he can sustain like that. But sometimes it's intimidating, because you beat the guy up so bad, he's bleeding like a stuck pig, and he's still coming after you. He won't stop. So, yeah, he can do some damage. I don't know anything about this Louise guy, but he's got a handful. At those 13 wins he has, probably weren't against guys like this guy. He'd be great in a zombie movie. Anyway, second fight of the night. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, 17-6-1, fighting undefeated Alexander Romanov, who's 12-0. First fight of the night, Gustavo Lopez, 11-5, fighting Anthony Burchak, who is 16-6. I believe he's fought for Bellator more recently than the UFC. Let me check that out. And we got one more big story, and it kind of ties into politics, because if you really want to see change in the UFC, and the Muhammad Ali Act brought to bear with some of these fighters, then there's reason to have hope if Joe Biden gets elected. Because there's an article by Loretta Hunt this last Tuesday, Election Day, about something we've talked about on the show before. Andrew Yang, who happens to be a huge UFC fan. And Loretta, God love her, she's been doing MMA stuff. She put her on the map, really. She wrote books about MMA. She used to work a lot for Sherdog. And actually, she was at such a high level, she wrote one article that got Dana White, back in his vlog days, when those were one of the most popular things before all the stuff they got now. He used to do a video blog, and he called her the C word and just totally went off on her. It was one of the most unprofessional things I'd ever seen at that point, but, he got away with that kind of stuff all the time. So she left MMA, and now she's working for the big newspaper over in the UK called The Guardian. And it's a great story here about Andrew Yang and the Ali Act. And it starts with the great line. "You do karate, chink?" The biggest bully barked at Andrew Yang as he kneed the future 2020 U.S. presidential candidate in his groin and sent him face first into the schoolyard dirt. So as the only Asian kid in the town, he says he was an easy target. Small, scrawny, something he couldn't help because he'd skipped a grade too. And he endured a lot of beatings until he decided to train. And specifically remembers when someone picked a fight with him and he started to fight back. And the guy did not expect it at all. So it ended up with Yang having to be pulled off the guy by a bunch of other kids who were shocked as hell. But anyway, this whole experience makes him more in tune with these fighters that he loves to watch. And this article is about how he's going to take the fight to Dana White. And he says it. He says it flat out. They need an association. They need the Ali Act, and they need a players' association, basically. Because what they have with these pseudo-unions they tried to start is not working. None of them got off the ground. None of them signed a significant amount of fighters. But yeah, they need some kind of an association that advocates for their rights. Because a lot of them probably are too scared to involve themselves in something as extreme as a union. But if you had an association, similar to the NFL Players Association, the MLB Players Association, where it was player-run, that would be different. Right now you have a lot of people trying to capitalize on it. I think one of the companies that claimed to be exploring a union idea was a bunch of agents, sports agents. Obviously they're trying to make money. That can't be the motive, you know. I mean, it has to make money to sustain itself, but it's not going to be a multi-millionaire thing that you're going to make millions off of it, you know, for the people that put it together. It's for the fighters, so it's to make sure they get better pay and better opportunities. So there can't be a ton of money on top, off the top, that's going to people that aren't fighting. Would make sense. So anyway, this is worth a read. Check it out. Loretta Hunt and Andrew Yang. Probably just search that on Google. You'll find it. And it's an interesting stuff. I mean, if there's anything to be hopeful for under a Joe Biden administration, this might be something. Although I don't think Donald Trump would have been opposed to something like this, even though he does, you know, have Dana White as one of his biggest friends. If somebody presented it to him, you know, in a neat package, he probably would agree. You know, fighters need to be taken care of, but he also probably wouldn't want to hurt his buddy Dana White. So we know Dana White's gonna be against this shit. So unless you guys got anything else to chime in, I think that's about it for me. Got all my news covered, all my events. I'm still waiting for the election.
Yeah, well, buckle in. It might be a while, bro.
Yeah. I should,
You know, it's crazy, you know. And I was watching a video, so I don't know if you guys ever watch videos of Adam Calhoun. He has like a YouTube page, and he has a Facebook page and all that. And he is like it's funny, like the ultimate redneck, but he's, I mean, spot on honest. And he'll come out and he'll say, you know, he goes, my now is that the Democrats are all cheering, we won, we won, we won. But say they do a recount and they do find that things were done, you know, shady, not on the up and up, and then it gets reversed, he goes, then it's really going to get ugly.
yeah.
That's the way it has to go. What are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, what you want is fairness. And the things like, you know, I'm reading people right now, and it's like, oh, you know, if you said like 4 years ago that we shouldn't protest, then you shouldn't protest. Well, I haven't seen anybody protesting yet. I mean, maybe a few minor things, but I definitely haven't seen any buildings getting burnt.
Well, you know, it's only a matter of time when they legalize crack, cocaine, and heroin in Oregon.
I know.
Portland, yeah, they're going to descend into some bad scenes, I'm sure. I think they already did have a
Well, you know what?
incidents.
If you do that, fine, as long as you tax it.
Right. No, I think they legalize using it.
Legalize it.
I don't know about selling it. I don't know about selling it.
Oh, well.
I don't know if you're going to have dispensaries. They have gone to that level in some states, I think, with the mushrooms. I do remember them talking about some referendums on magic mushrooms is what they're calling them. But for therapeutic use, you know. The only thing I've ever seen... The only thing I've ever seen documented evidence of that working for is like chronic headaches. There was this one guy I saw in a documentary. He grew his own too in a little friggin' like one of those totes, plastic totes. He grew his own mushrooms, and he would take these mushrooms and he would sleep for like an entire day and a half, and he wouldn't have headaches for the rest of the month. Yeah, if it works, it works.
Hey, if it works, you know?
Yeah.
But what else can you say? If it works, it works. God bless you.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all, folks, for us. Hopefully we might have it figured out. If not, maybe I'll send Trump to the White House. I'll still be there for a while, so I'll send him my book on how to represent yourself in court. In case his lawyers are busy one day, and he could just walk in and represent himself. He would definitely think he could do that, right?
Hey, bro, what?
He would be beautiful. He would do a beautiful job. It would be fantastic.
Right.
It would be the best pro se performance anybody has ever seen in the history of pro se. No, but actually, I did find out last week that my book is selling.
Oh, that's good.
Not thousands of copies or anything, but I had one check. It took me like 4 years to get my first check, which is like you got $100 worth of royalties. So they send you a check from Amazon. And this last check I got in like 3 months. So it is selling. And the best sign of all, I don't know whether it's this economy and this lockdown culture, but I mean, I guarantee you people are they're spending a lot of time in court because of all the delays. So obviously that's going to cost a lot if you have an attorney. You know, the longer they stay on the case, the more money they want. Even if they're doing nothing, they'll pretend like they're doing something. So maybe a lot of people are really representing themselves in this situation because they can't afford to do it otherwise, and or looking for ways to sue people, so they're buying my book.
Yeah.
But the best sign is the used ones are more expensive than the new ones. Somehow, they're not even signed or anything. So that's great to hear, but yeah, it's a miracle of our economy, I guess. But hopefully they work it all out, figure out what delegates go to who, and we'll have a new president at some point. Or an old president.
Or the same president.
Yeah, the same president.
Same. 4 more years. 4 more years.
I'll tell you, he surprised me. He definitely surprised me. And not only did CNN wait to call Arizona, they also gave him a lot of compliments on how he hustled his ass off to go to so many events in the last few days, even though for weeks before that they were talking about nothing more than how he was putting people at risk at these events.
I know.
That's one of the most common themes on Facebook today. How does a guy that only gets 20 people to go to his rallies end up with more votes than any other U.S. presidential candidate? It defies belief, but these are the times we're living in. 2020 hits us with another curveball. Go for you.
Haven't we had enough?
Yeah. Huh. All right. Well, I'll try to get a guest for next week. I got a couple candidates I'm working on, and one of them might be the boss.
Well, until then, stay away from the riot.
Right.
And
guys, enjoy the fights.
Yeah. The actual boxing matches, not the riot fights.
Right. All right, guys. Adios.
All right.